Shah, Director of Amnesty International's Program on Climate, Economic and Social Justice and Corporate Accountability, will link to Amnesty's new report, The Cost of Doing Business, the Petrochemical Industry's Toxic Pollution in the USA. Amnesty's noted that the production of plastics by petrochemical plants is set to double by 2040, despite the fact that it poses environmental pollutant and health hazards, to say the least, particularly in communities of color. That does it for our show. Democracy Now! Is currently accepting applications for a major gifts officer. Check it out at democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them and are not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of the Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 90.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. A special shout out to all of our KFAI listeners and to all of our social media listeners and viewers. We appreciate you, your attention to the community that we co-create together. We thank you for being a supporter of KFAI, of the Conversation with Al McFarlane. And we thank you for connecting and supporting us by subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's at YouTube, insightnewsalmcfarlane.com. Subscribe, like, share, let people know that we're going live. Well, today we're on the doorstep of Black History Month. And, like many people, I have the personal feeling that Black history is something that we should be celebrating every day, all day, from now until. But I also appreciate the fact that our elders and forebears have organized a way to institutionalize the appreciation and the study, the recognition of the value, the importance of the study of African-American Black history. Well, today we're going to talk about that. One of the things we want to focus on is science, technology, engineering, and math. And what's coming up on Saturday, the 5th, is STEM Saturday at the Harvest Prep Academy. We'll talk to the leader of the Harvest Prep Academy, Eric Mahmoud. And before that, talk to two of the people working with Senator Bobby Champion to organize this event, STEM Saturday, and a variety of events that elevate awareness and participation in Black History Month. Please welcome Alexis Varner and Shamika Bogan, two of the staff members with Bobby Joe Champion, Senator Bobby Joe Champion, who's president of the Minnesota Senate. Shamika, Alexis, good to see you all. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. McFarlane. Good to see you too.
Well, Shamika, let me start with you, and you can pass it on to Alexis. Let's talk about why this is important and how the senator elevates this by engaging and supporting community awareness and celebration of Black history. Talk about the impetus behind that.
Absolutely. Well, as you know, and a lot of other people know, Senator Champion is a huge community advocate. He's big on history, big on always uplifting the people that came before him. And so even, in his office and all the things that we do, he's very fact driven around history. And so this particular project and month is really important to him. It's something that since I came into the office, he's always been very interested in uplifting and elevating, Black inventors, people that have came before us and people that are doing things now. And so this year is no different. Last year with him making history and being the first person of color ever to serve as a Senate president and the first African-American to do that, it's a true honor just to be in his office and work in his office and to have an opportunity to work on this project.
Well, let me say, if it hasn't been said enough, people in the community so appreciate Senator Champion. He's been a game changer, a leader, and he's led the initiative to be, I think, I would call it genuine and earnest in delivery of resources from ourselves to ourselves. We are the owners of the enterprise of government as citizens and residents of Minnesota. And too often we have felt that our investment in terms of taxes and labor has not been delivered back to us in ways that really ought to be. And what's wonderful is that Senator Champion and the team of senators and legislators who make up the BIPOC caucus, POCI caucus, it's called, People of Color Caucus, and the other leaders from other communities have taken a giant step to, again, elevate the interest and to put money behind that elevation so that we have institutions in our community that can support, that can grow, that can thrive in serving our community. Alexis, on this particular project, what's going to be happening? What are you all trying to elevate for Black History Month from the Senator's office?
Yeah, of course. So just as Shamika said, Senator Champion's very fact-driven. So we made sure to be mindful of the history of Black History Month and acknowledging and recognizing that. So in terms of Black history, it's often misunderstood because it's in February, which is the shortest month of the year. People tend to think, oh, society doesn't want to recognize Black contributions. Yet it's actually opposite because this month was pioneered by Carter G. Woodson, a prominent Black figure in the Black past. And he based this month, or chose this month for Black History Month, and started it off as Black History Negro Week because it was the birthday of two prominent figures in our history, which is Frederick Douglass and Carter G. Woodson. Oh my goodness, I cannot speak. And Abraham Lincoln. So as you know, Frederick Douglass, pioneered the movement for Black Africans and African Americans from slavery to freedom, and Abraham Lincoln ensured that freedom. And so he established the Negro History Week in 1926 to commemorate their birthdays. And so it was the second week of February, which is both their birthdays fall in that week, on the 12th and the 14th. So even before that, though, it was established, or started to begin to be established, in 1915 when Carter G. Woodson attended the 15th year in emancipation anniversary at the University of Chicago, where they decided to highlight Black history through Black exhibitions. So this motivated him on a similar level, and he wanted to do it on a bigger scale. And he believed that the current celebrations that were being done then around Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln did not fully commemorate the Black past and memorialize or give significance to the unsung heroes within the Black history. It just kind of highlights prominent figures and not everything that we have done to contribute to society. So fasting even more forward, he decided that, Black History Week isn't something that should be limited to a week or even a month. We should push for Black History Year, since it's American history, not just Black history. But unfortunately, he never got to see that day, as he died on April 3rd, 1950. But there was young Black scholars that were propelled by the transformative 1960s to be able to push this to a new level. And in 1976, President Ford issued an observance for Black History Month. And from then on, it has now been celebrated and enshrined into law. And so we will continue to celebrate this month every single year. And so the reason we decided to highlight this is for young Blacks to understand their history and also understand how it contributes to society today. And so that's why we're also doing the event at Harvest Best Academy on February 10th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we'll be highlighting not only Dr. Childs, a pioneer for Black inventors in STEM. He not only worked on chips, but he's done work with the Obama administration, and now he's doing new work with with Guardian, his new company, where he's doing some security things in the schools. But yeah, that's really kind of what we're doing this month to celebrate Black history. And we also have an event later this month. It's a tribute to Mahalia Jackson, That will be happening at the Capri, and that will be starting at 5 p.m. on February 25th.
Well done, well said. Over the course of the next few minutes, I'll be talking with Eric Mahmoud and Dr. Tim Childs, but I want to swing back to you, Alexis, to continue to invite people to show up at these important events and to give people contact information if they want to find out more. How can they find out more? So here's the poster on STEM Saturday. Walk us through that real quick. Then I'm going to bring in Eric Mahmoud.
Yeah, so students will get the chance to model physical anatomy using edible ingredients, investigate particles that make up the bloodstream, and learn to check pulses and identify main arteries involved. And kind of this ties into what we're doing with the Black inventors as well, because some main contributions that aren't really heard about from Black inventors include the blood plasma bag, which was invented by Charles Drew, or the traffic light invented by Garrett Morgan, and then the elevator as well, invented by Alexander Miles. So this ties into everything that we're doing, along with the health and the inventors and all of the great stuff that will be at the event. And again, that will be Saturday, February 10th from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. at Harvest Best Academy.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm going to switch now and bring in two of the celebrated leaders and lights in our community. Eric Mahmoud is an educational expert and author with over 30 years of what many see as unparalleled experience in shaping the educational landscape. He is the CEO of Harvest Best Academy. He's dedicated a career to providing innovative and effective education, particularly focusing on empowering Black children. He has a remarkable track record. 80% of the graduates of Harvest Best Academy transition to college, and that establishes this institution as one of the top schools in North Minneapolis for the past 13 years. Under his leadership, Harvest Best Academy has achieved a number of milestones. They established the first and only mobile innovation lab. They call it the Beast. They created that during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it offered STEM education to scholars. Mahmoud has also spearheaded the organization's fiscal function, consistently delivering optimal performance and strategic financial leadership. He successfully developed and implemented policies and procedures that enhance overall operational effectiveness. Additionally, he founded and directed several education initiatives, including Seed Academy, including Rites of Passage, including foster parenting, Harvest Preparatory School, Harvest Preparatory Charter School, Best Academy, Mastery Schools, and Wakanda Virtual Academy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Brother Eric, so good to see you. Thank you for being here. And let me have you invite people to Harvest Prep for STEM Saturday.
Good to be here, Al. Thank you for having me on the show. It's an honor to be here. Really appreciate Senator Champion partnering with us on this project. If I can just give a little bit of history
Sure.
of the STEM Saturday initiative. It actually started in the office of Lewis King, probably about 5 years ago. I walked into his office. He had all these toys, what would be considered toys, on his desk. And he said, I want to build the whole program around this. And he had robotics. He had all of these different fun educational STEM initiatives. And the idea was to spark interest in STEM. Actually, I have a engineering background. And that engineering background is based on the fact that when I was 13 years old, I was introduced to electronics. And that really got my interest in this whole idea of science, technology, engineering, and math. We didn't call it that at that time, but that was exactly what it is. Went on to the University of Wisconsin-Madison to study engineering. And so we want to create the exact same type of opportunity for our community, our students in our community. We want to spark their interest. We want to give them options. So on Saturday, as Sister Alexis laid out, we're going to not only have STEM projects, we're going to lift up Black inventors, that current Black inventors and past Black inventors. And the reason why that's so important, if you don't think that you've done anything, you can't believe that you can do anything, right? So we want to show that we have a long history of inventions and producing things in this country, and so STEM is a continuation of a legacy for African and African American people.
Let me bring in Dr. Timothy Childs. You made reference to him. Dr. Childs, thank you so much for being here. And this is a gentleman, a human being par excellence, is how I would describe him. He's the founder and guardian of his company is called Guardian. He received his PhD in physics in 1989 from Stanford University. That's where he was also a Bell Laboratory Fellow. And from 89 to 91, he was a research scientist at Honeywell Incorporated, where he received numerous honors and awards, including first place in an international competition for next generation semiconductor circuit technology. In 91, he formed his first private company, TMPI, after negotiating key transfers of his patented millimeter wavelength, call it MMW technology, from Honeywell. Thereafter, he was selected by the Pentagon's Air Force Special Programs Office to collaborate with Lockheed Martin on implementing leading edge MMW applications. As a part of the Pentagon program, Lockheed Martin transferred equipment and MMW technology to TMPI. During the period up to 2012, TMPI executed many MMW-focused contracts for the U.S. government, including Department of Defense, Special Services, NASA, National Science Foundation, and more. In 2012, Dr. Childs founded his second private company called TLC Millimeter Wave Products, Inc., and was created as Guardian's licensor to commercially exploit his vast body of knowledge regarding MMW technologies and their applications to multiple industries. So over a period of 30 years, Dr. Childs has been awarded multiple patents and received accolades from Presidents George H. Bush, President Bill Clinton, and President Barack Obama for his innovative technology contributions to the U.S. government and his extraordinary breakthroughs in threat detection and incoming missile defense applications. Holy Moses. TMI has continued its innovative work, leading to the formation of the new company, Guardian. In '99, Dr. Childs and his wife, Lorraine, created the TLC Education Foundation for their work with underprivileged youth, assisting them to realize their educational potential. Dr. Childs and Lorraine have dedicated significant time and resources to the community and a number of organizations involved in education, youth development, and social justice. He's a member of several professional organizations, including the Committee for American Physical Society, the Society for Black Scientists and Engineers, and others. Dr. Childs, my friend, so good to see you. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. How you doing? Thank you for being here.
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see the great Eric Mahmoud. So I'm glad to be here and glad to be a part, and anything I can do to contribute to our community and our youth, learning more about STEM and how I can help them with their careers and as well as our community and economic growth. But also I just enjoy the field and enjoy helping people to understand and to be a part of STEM and what it can do for all of us. Thank you.
Well, so talk about some of those accomplishments that I refer to of yours in the STEM field, leading up to what Guardian is and what you do at Guardian.
Sure, and thanks again. Yes, if I go further back, you mentioned about Stanford. Also, as an undergrad, I went to Florida A&M University. I was a Rattler. And there, actually, I played football. And some of the people who also went to FAMU, Greg Coleman, who was the kicker for the Vikings, and Vincent Coleman, he was actually my freshman. We played together at Florida A&M. Vincent Coleman was the baseball player with Cardinals. I was the linebacker for Florida A&M, and we won a national championship, and we beat the University of Miami in Florida State Stadium, and that was great. But I was a physics major there with computer science. I actually went to FAMU and FSU, and then worked in the summer as an intern at Bell Labs. Then, as you mentioned, went from Bell Labs, went to Stanford, and then came and worked at Honeywell. Spent off the company from Honeywell, have done a number of projects with Honeywell. And as you mentioned, the Pentagon took a side of us, and we began to work with Lockheed Martin and a few others. And we developed some breakthrough technology for our government to help with security of this country and of our allies. And in doing so, we developed technologies and patents that has continued to grow and for our military and NASA, developed special chips and things along that line, which we enjoyed doing, and it was a lot of fun. But I will say, you mentioned Guardian, actually Guardian School Security System. That came about when I got a call around 2014 from my daughter who was attending Seattle Pacific University. And she was crying on the phone, crying and couldn't stop and could hardly understand it. And she had just left the student union where she had passed the perpetrator who was shot and killed her friend that she was having lunch with. So it was at that time when I called our engineers, where we were working on missile avoidance for the Air Force and some of our allies to use that technology to bring some safety and security to our community and to our schools. And so from that, we have developed and patented a system that can detect weapons and threats before they get to the school. And so that led to another company we spent off called Viritech, where we can detect pathogens of various types instantly. And we also have a patent on how to deactivate pathogens. And so
pathogen meaning like things in the air, like
viruses, flu, and we actually have interests that we for diabetes, cancer, and things along that line. And so we are steady moving forward, but we enjoy now moving technology that we had previously used for the government and military and classified, and now applying it to our community and doing social good, and also we do pretty well financially. Yeah.
That's great. You know, I just always think about you, Dr. Childs, when I walked into the Cub store over on West Broadway, and you were sitting there at the desk. This is Dr. Timothy Childs, the scientist, the noted scientist and entrepreneur. I mean, you're a big thing. You really are, you know, here and globally. And so I walk into Cub, and you're sitting behind a regular old folding table, and you're passing out information to have Black kids learn about technology and about STEM. What keeps you and allows you to drill down to that level of reaching out to individual students and families to support them discovering the possibilities in science?
Yes, that is a love and a passion that I have, and for me, I consider that invaluable. No matter what I do, that to me is extremely important in so many ways. I probably consider that as being most important. I was fortunate to have brothers and sisters, 7 brothers and sisters, 5 girls and 2 brothers who spent time with me and learning. I was doing long division and even had how to do a slide ruler before I started school. And so
3 or 4 years old?
somewhere in that neighborhood. But they gave me a drive and a love for science and technology, and I could never repay that. There's been many others who have helped me, teachers and professors and so forth. And even while I was at Stanford, one of the things I volunteered to do was recruit African Americans from around the country to come to get their PhD. By the time I graduated, I got an award from Washington, but we had graduated the most Black PhDs in the country, and it was in physics. And so it just lets you know the capabilities that we can attain. And I, yet to this day, haven't seen anyone who can't learn math and physics. So a lot of times it's how it's taught, how it's approached. And so I really enjoyed interacting with youth. And so you see me there in Cub Food. You still remember that?
I do.
I was recruiting from all over. But we had students, and we found students, and we've seen students who were have been behind and behind in grades and so forth. But when you really take the time, and I appreciate Eric Mahmoud, because he has demonstrated this time and time again. When you demonstrate and take the time and the passion for teaching in a manner where students can grasp, and then you see once they get it, you see them take off, and it is remarkable. And a lot of times the students don't realize what their potential is, but when they find out you have a tiger by the tail, and it's a beautiful sight to see. Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing. A couple of comments online. Our friend Don Shelby, celebrated Don Shelby, says to you, Dr. Childs, can I convince you to meet with the executives over at the Science Museum of Minnesota on the issue of STEM in the African American students? He's on the board. So that's an invitation. Thank you, Don, for listening. And thank you for the invitation. And also a note from a listener, CME1. And CME1 says 3D printing technology is key to self-determination. She says machine tooling plus additive manufacturing equals freedom. Go build Africa for the next generation. Thank you for the comment. And she says, Dr. Hadiya Nicole Green is a STEM goddess. This person I'm not familiar with, but I'll become familiar. Thank you for saying that name. So Eric and Dr. Childs, let me ask you both to sort of float with this idea about the future. What I study is, as a communicator, Afrofuturism, and the technology boom, the imagination that is coming out of how do we ideate futures that show us both being co-authors of existence, but also playing a critical leadership, an authoritative role in the ongoing development of what it means to be a human being. So, Dr. Childs, you said when a kid, young person realizes that he or she can do the math, it's like grabbing a tiger by the tail. They're ready for the ride of a lifetime. Talk about that. And Eric, you talk about it as well, if you would. What's at stake for the world in empowering young people to know and see themselves as scientists, as inventors?
Yes, it is a treasure that we have, and I consider we're not nearly tapping that treasure that we have in our community, and for our community to be involved in the next or present stage and economic transition, we need to be in these fields. And our talent and capabilities of our youth is phenomenal. And so, case in point, I used to also tutor or help some of my fellow football players and also some of the athletes at Stanford. But in a simple game that we play in our community called basketball, and to stand out beyond the 3-point line and shoot a basketball into a small rim, this you know how small it is. The amount of physics that goes into that is amazing, and they do it like that, okay, without second thought. And so, understanding how that's done, okay, then they realize the capabilities and the knowledge that they can attain. And just to bring this, I'm trying to move quickly, but to bring this home, a lot of other people and people in high places realize the talent that is in our community. Case in point, I was one of 50 scientists selected, one of 50 of the scientists selected for Biden's $100 billion commercialization initiative. And I thought it was my job and responsibility to make sure as we structured that $100 billion to be spent, that it went into our community, down to our high schools and to our people of color in our community. And they realized that as well. For us to compete nationally or internationally, I should say, we can't leave out one of the most highly gifted and provocative and innovative thinkers in the world, our community. And so, but we also have to let our community realize the capability and the potential that we have. And so I love talking with you. I love teaching math and I love teaching physics. And I can tell you story after story. Students who have had apathy or basically didn't care about school to come on and not only graduate with high honors, but go on to college, okay, and become an engineer or scientist or attorney. And so, there is no higher, I think, reward or joy you can get to seeing that. So I'm a little jealous of Mr. Mahmoud.
Well, Eric, jump in here because you're in the catbird seat. You're driving the pipeline. And let me say you're doing it in a way that's marvelous and exemplary and that is conscious and that is impactful. But weigh in, if you would, on this question. Before I have you do that, I always tell people of one of the most one of many transforming experiences I've had in your audience. I remember some years ago when one of my grandsons was in the elementary program, I went to an event at Sabathani Community Center. It was the annual parents, like talent show kind of thing, right. Annual. And, what stays with me today is a drill team presentation by Mrs.
Hazelwood.
Was it Miss Haywood or was it, could have been, I'm not sure.
Or Hazelwood.
I think it was one of the two.
Okay.
But they had Miss Faluki, I think it was.
Yeah.
And they were having kids do this, drill and left, right, mark time, etc. But at one point, they recited something that said, "Into the enemy camp we go." And I said, "What?" Into the enemy camp we go. And what did that mean to me, to Al McFarlane, the observer, the journalist? It meant that there is an intentionality, a calling of fearlessness, and a calling of mission to young people, letting them know that the enemy camp is everything outside of us that is inimical to our existence. And it's not racial, but it's ignorance, right? And so you are launching young people to go and fight against ignorance that destroys and devalues humanity. I think that's a wonderful thing. So weigh in. I'm a compliment to you, first of all, always in admiration of you and the work. But that brings it all together for me. So go ahead and flow from there.
Yeah. The exact quote, Al, is, "We're going back to the enemy's camp to take back what they took from me." Right? and they knew they took our history, they took our confidence, all of that. So we're gonna go back in the enemy's camp to take back what they took from me. So let me just build on what Dr. Childs laid out. Black people are an untapped resource, especially in the area of STEM, right? Because we've been convinced that we can't do it. In my book, I talk about the belief gap, right? So there's this belief gap that Black people can't do science, can't do engineering, right? And so that's one of the things that we have to address is the belief. And so by having a Dr. Childs talk about, somebody not, 100 years ago, right, but today, that's a physicist that, you know, is producing incredible technology that the country is using, it is clearly showing what is possible for our children. And so I just think that's very important. We have to be producers, not consumers. And so I think that that's another part of this whole STEM initiative. We want to be producers, not consumers of technology. We have the iPhones, we have the iPads, the Apple Watches, right? But we want to produce the iPhones. We want to produce the watches. We want to produce technology. So Dr. Childs talked about his daughter, right, dealing with a problem. He produced a solution, right? That's what STEM people do. They're producers. They produce solutions. And so we want our children in that mindset. Yeah. So the future, what we want to get our children accustomed to, thinking about being producers, and STEM is all about. I take my STEM and engineering and I solve educational problems, right? Because it's a discipline.
Yes.
Right? It's about problem solving. It's not just about the technology, it's about problem solving. I was trained to be a problem solver. That's what an engineer is, a problem solver, right? Too many times we're dependent on other people to solve our problems. We want to be producers so we can solve our own problems. And we got many problems to solve.
So we got work to do. We got work to do. And the key is in the attitude to know that we are equal to the challenge.
Yes.
And that what we bring to this as problem solvers is a solution strategy that allows us to engage everywhere with the sense of commitment, joy, and inevitability that our brains, our thoughts, and our intention will produce the innovative, the new, the solution. Well, Dr. Childs, jump in again. What do you envision as you dream? What outcomes do you see for children and families and countries that you touch? You're operating on a global scale. And from that perspective, how do you see, as our one commenter said, us impacting the African world, or the world in a way that reflects the genius of African people?
Yes, and I think Eric Mahmoud is dead on it. If we understood the importance of STEM, and if we understood our capabilities in STEM, then you would also see how we can be highly impacting into our communities, into our nation, into the world. And let me share, after we had started doing development for the military and NASA, then they started coming to us with their problems, okay? And they come to us for solutions, okay? And then we're not asking for them to give us a handout. Now they want to know how much do we want in order to solve the problem. And so you flip the switch. So now you a solution, you producing solutions. And right now people will pay to find solutions. Case in point, we do things internationally. In fact, a while back, you might have remembered when they kidnapped the young girls in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
What you don't know. Yeah, well, you don't know, the president put me on a plane. I flew to Nigeria, okay, to help solve that problem. But we've been solving problems for other allies in different countries. I'm gonna share this. We were fortunate to be invited to meet President Obama at the White House. If you look back at the timing of that, we had been working with the Air Force on some special chips that can do some special things. But that visit was within a week of them resolving the matter with the gentleman, yeah. but the thing is, we can shift this thing as Mr. Mahmoud was saying. Not just don't be satisfied with being a consumer, okay, but be a producer, be a solution. We like cars. Well, let's make a car, okay, that doesn't require gas, okay, and that can go farther and go faster, and so forth. And then see how many people come and ask you, how much do you want? We have people fly in to ask me how much I want for the company. And then they try to negotiate with my wife.
Boy. Well, I'm gonna.
I enjoy working with the engineers and the minds, and let's set the standards high. Here at our company, if we do what other people don't do. If somebody else did it, we're not interested. We're interested in doing what hasn't been done before, and so because if it's already done, I mean, it's already done. So we produce, we create patents, we create technology, and then we can create products. And so and we enjoy doing that. I'm having a great time. My wife's having a time to retire so she can go to the Bahamas.
That quote reminds me of my favorite musician who talks about doing things that are new, that haven't been done before, and that's Sun Ra. I don't know if you know Sun Ra, the great Sun Ra jazz musician. But listen, thank you, Dr. Childs. I'm going to, after the show, ask you if you can come back again real soon to spend more time. Your story is just so phenomenal, and I so enjoy listening to you. And you haven't had a chance to really tell the story yet. So I want to make sure that we're able to do that. But I want to thank you for being here today. And
glad to be here. And make sure you for the STEM Saturday, I'm looking forward to being there with Harvest Best, with the best of the best.
Awesome. So Alexis, let me ask you to make the invitation again. Let people know and invite them.
Thank you, Mr. McFarlane. Again, we'll be having STEM Saturday, a part of our Black History Month series, a salute to Black inventors, on Saturday, February 10th from 11 a.m. to 1:30 at Harvest Best Academy. And it's in partnership with the University of Minnesota, the OIC of America, and of course, Harvest Best Academy.
Thank you so much. I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. To continue, I'm going to bring in another two dear friends, leaders in community. You know, the conversation kind of goes hand in hand because we're talking about legacy. And Minister Dr. Ora Hokes is a person that is doing work to understand what legacy is and what it means. Since the 70s, is a title for chief or leader, has been an outspoken advocate for the elimination of the prevailing social determinants that contribute to health disparities among people of African descent in the state of Minnesota. She's a member of Greater Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, has been there 47 years. She saw the alarming health-related risk factors affecting the African American communities, and she took action. In '89, she was appointed to the president of the Health and Social Justice Ministry by her pastor, and thereby established their monthly Health Sunday Reflections, which is held on the third Sunday of every month. And now under a new pastor, she's assumed responsibility for the Social Justice Ministry. She's held several administrative positions and served as a volunteer on many not-for-profit boards. In 2003, Ora Hokes became an American Heart Association trained volunteer for their Stomp Out the Stroke ambassador program, and that was intended to facilitate workshops within the African American community about smoking and cancer. Also in 2003, she was appointed by her pastor to serve as the church health coordinator for their partnership with Stair Step Foundations. There's a Balm in Gilead, a program that conducted health and wellness activities throughout Twin Cities, as well as advocating for health equity for people of African descent. Ora Hokes has been a longtime anti-commercial tobacco grassroots lobbyist, trained through the Clearway, Minnesota program. It was formerly Clearway. And she continues to educate the community about the harmful effects of tobacco-related products. And she does that through working on legislation and local ordinances. Her advocacy has included ordinances by the cities of Edina, Robbinsdale, St. Paul, and Minneapolis, ordinances to restrict the sale of such products to adult-only stores and the age of sales to people that are 21 years, as well as trying to tamp down on the sale of menthol cigarettes. She's a certified community health worker and earned her doctorate degree in that field. She's a mother of Chandra and Lynn, as well as the grandmother of Tarek Armani, Princess Lazia. She's an installed Ghanaian chief, therefore the title Ni is a chief, and she lives in North Minneapolis, licensed and ordained minister of the gospel. Sister Ora Hokes, welcome to the conversation. Good to see you again.
Hotep, Brother Al, and thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Jump right in, and you are, working with our next guest, Greg Hestness, on a legacy project. Greg, I pushed my camera there. Greg is a lifetime Minneapolis resident, a graduate of Central High School and University of Minnesota, St. Mary's University, had a 40-year police career, 28 years with the Minneapolis Police Department, and then 12 more years at the University of Minnesota Police Department. 50 years altogether of nonprofit board service, including 6 with the Minneapolis Urban League and 6 with the Minneapolis Domestic Abuse Project. And both of you are here with a project that celebrates legacy. Or you first talk about it. What is Legacies Minnesota Valentine's event coming at the Capri Theater?
Our event, Brother Al, is February the 14th at the Capri Theater. We're starting at 5:30 with the dinner, and then the dinner is catered, and at 6:30 we will go into our award ceremony. There's a group of us, there's 7, and being a person of faith, 7 is the perfect number. And I'll let Chief Hestness give the names of those individuals. But I look at us as we're intergenerational group. We're social activists, social justice activists, and freedom fighters. And what we saw in our community was that there are a lot of individuals who do service, who are into servicehood, but they're unrecognized. They don't ask to be recognized. They don't seek fanfare. And we had been meeting for about a year and a half, and we decided, let's do something for these individuals. Let's give them their flowers while they can smell them. And so they are leaving a legacy to the generation behind us, to one, a work of service. Service doesn't cost you anything, and service is a reward. And just as the guest before, in talking about our history as people of African descent, this group of individuals is from diverse ethnic backgrounds. And so we are all here as part of the city of Minneapolis. And these individuals have done things to build up families, to build up young people in tutoring and coaching, and just trying to keep things together. So we thought it would behoove us if we would do this. We're not a nonprofit. We didn't have a dime, Brother Al. But we, through our ingenuity, it says it's who you know. So we went to some whom we knows and reached out to them, and the response was wonderful to allow us to do this because, it costs money. But this group of 7 are givers, and they are serving themselves. And so Legacies of the Heart, February, Month of the Heart, February, African Heritage Month. And so what more perfect time and month to have this than February the 14th to honor our elders within our community in the city of Minneapolis.
That's awesome. Greg Hestness, thank you for being here. Tell us who the 7 are that you're honoring. And I think our intention, Dr. Hokes, is that both this program and Insight News will feature all of the 7 in a series, so that we think that this is critically important to make sure that our publics know this tribute that is being created. But who are we talking about, Greg, so far?
Good afternoon, Al and listeners. So just do a quick aside. So I've been retired 9 years now, and it's not uncommon for people to ask me or say, I bet you're glad you're not doing that work anymore. Well, truthfully, no. I really miss being part of problem solving, and there are big problems to solve. And I remain on a couple of nonprofit boards, but I really want to do something hands-on. I happen to fall into this group. We meet every Tuesday morning up at the Hy-Vee in Robbinsdale. Includes Dr. Hokes, who I was on the Urban League board with in the early aughts this year. I have a world of respect for her, but it also includes Dr. Eric Mahmoud, Minister Lori Gurley, who's also a caterer, Latanya Reeves. I don't know anybody who doesn't know Latanya Reeves. Martha Holton Dimmock, former judge, former county attorney candidate, and Dr. Alicia Gibson. So we all had our nominees that we thought would, as Dr. Hokes has described, were under-recognized. So I'd give you the names. So the first was Dr. Walter Q. Bear Banks. He may be a doctor too. Richard Chicolas. Augustine Willie Dominguez, and I'll just say in addition on Willie, of course, he was a host of a show on KFAI for many years that I listened to, Sábados Alegre with El Bilingüe,
right?
Dominguez, Chief Vusi Zulu, Shirley Gardner, and last but not least, former police chief Madari Arredondo, who I probably know about the best. So those are our honorees.
Great. And so why, in your words, is this so important? Why is it critical that we take the time to recognize and honor and celebrate these leaders in community?
Well, I think just because we need to inspire and model the next generation that kind of lift these names up and inspire youth to step up behind them.
Or what do you think?
When we look at, I'm going to start with Chief Arredondo, such a respectful young man growing up through the ranks, never changed his posture of compassion and respect for his elders, first of all, and then for all people. And so he sets a tone for young people to follow, as well as elders. When you look at the broad spectrum of all of these, and I'll use what Willie Domingos said, that his father took him around and showed him how to serve, having come over to America, but to serve. And so we know that when we give, it comes back. So that spirit of giving comes back. Richard Chicolas, who spent, I don't know how many years at North High School, teaching our young people and coaching them, and many young men, and including my son, who would not have stayed in school unless they had a Richard Chicolas behind in them, telling them, just as Dr. Mahmoud and Dr. Child said, you can do it. encouraging them. You can do it. Don't let anybody tell you can't, because you can. Do it. Those kinds of things. And we hear the motivation of Q-Bear Walter Banks on the radio. He even encourages us to stop at traffic lights. Something real simple. That's safety. He's always giving words and motivation. And Shirley Gardner, who works within the community and has a special love for children, to make sure that they have school attire, and adopted Friendship Academy of the Arts in South Minneapolis, which is part of my place of worship there. And so when we look at these, you would normally call them unsung heroes. You never hear anything about them doing. But when you read their bios and you see the things that they've done, it's just as Dr. Woodson did, and pulling out and showing us and peeling back the onion, so to speak, of all of the work that these individuals have done to make the city of Minneapolis a better place and to help hold families together. So we want to make sure that we just give them a little recognition, but it's also prayerfully that the community will look and say, they can do it, I can do it too. And these individuals they're not teenagers. These are elders that are still doing service for the community. And that old spiritual, I ain't tired yet. They ain't tired yet. So that's what we want to do.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, if I can spark up the interest just a little bit, there's a gentleman I've known since Minneapolis Central High School, Maestro Gary Hines, and the Sounds of Blackness will be performing at our dinner event. And it doesn't get better than that. Outside of his talent, he's one of the best human beings I've ever met. So please come.
Well, and of course, excuse me, Brother Al, but and I call him my son. He was one of my mentees, Senator Bobby Joe Champion, and we know that Northside is proud of him, but he's going to be our guest speaker. And we thought, who could come and just give words of encouragement to these individuals? And we thought, well, let's just get this young man who has more energy than anybody that I know. I think he works 365, 24/7 or 8 around the clock. I don't know when he sleeps, but such an inspiration of service. And he doesn't ask for fanfare. He doesn't seek recognition. He lets his work speak for himself to do that.
Let me ask you and Greg, Dr. Hokes, to take a minute and put your dream cap on. And this work is both inspired and inspirational, but to what end? What are we seeking to do? What do we seek to accomplish? What kind of world does Dr. Hokes and does Brother Gregory Hestness, what are we looking to build? What's the why? What's the vision? Dr. Hokes?
As been said by the guests, problem solving. Me, growing up as a woman of African descent, that's part of our character and our nature. We had to solve problems because there was nobody there but us to help us. So we want our young people to know that you are able to do it with basically the gifts and talents that you have. And then you have some God-given gifts for your place in the world, that there's a place for everyone. And that you, along with your family and your community, we are all in this together. And if we put our hands together, we can smell the bouquet of our flowers And one gentleman said, as we give them the flowers, let us water them as well.
Greg,
So we want the young people to water the flowers.
Greg, we have 30 seconds. Let me have you make the invitation one more time.
Lord, yes, and glad I don't have to say too much after that. But yep, so it's Valentine's Day, which will be Tuesday, the 14th of February this year. Doors open 5:30. We have dinner at 6. Entertainment and award ceremony following.
Thank you so much. And thank you for listening. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.